Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 31. Dude,
what?
there's just this, like, every single time I start this podcast, I have this, like, heart attack moment of, did I unmute everything correctly? You know, is everything ready? Because, like, sometimes I just start the podcast and I'm muted, and that's big embarrassing, but we fixed it this time. But it was too late for me to sound reasonable. So anyways, it's episode 31 of the Titanforge podcast. This week we'll be talking about Mechagon, Operation Mechagon Mythic Plus. We have some PTR testing and a lot of information to share that might help you in your first couple weeks avoid, super hard wiping to this dungeon, which would otherwise, and I'm sure will still happen. I'm sure this dungeon will still be the home of the hard wipe for a while. So let's get started. First of all, of course, I'm joined by my friends and fellow hosts, Tettles.
Hello, Dratnos. I hope you're doing well today.
And
I am a trivia champion.
Wow, spoilers! And Trell.
Not a spoiler, dude. It's been a week.
What do you mean?
Good afternoon, Dratnos.
All right, yeah. For gamers who haven't seen our Titanforge trivia episode 30, Tettles is the winner, and he has requested that I show this trophy on screen for him. So congratulations, Tettles. Here's your trophy that you made yourself. Well done.
So beautiful.
Yeah. I agree, though, that there should have been a recount.
I did recount. I won.
Oh my god, you actually recounted it?
Yeah.
Insane.
I'm
The
pretty
whole-
sure he rewatched the entire episode just to make sure that he won.
Wow. Anyways, congratulations, Tettles, undisputed trivia champion. So this week we're talking about Mechagon. Let's talk a little bit about what our next couple weeks are going to look like. We've got an 8.3 preview episode planned for next week, where we'll talk also a lot about Awakened. But this week we're going to mostly stay away from Awakened, because the order that you're going to interact with new M Plus content is probably Mechagon will be out like a week before you really start doing Awakened keys. We're not 100% sure what the release calendar is going to look like, but in the past what they've done is they've had like this week of only farming plus 5s, where like the item level reward from the end of dungeon cache is capped at like plus 5 or plus 7 or something. So if that's the case, you won't be dealing with Awakened, but you will be dealing with Operation Mechagon for at least 1 week of them, those two things not overlapping. So if you're into that, Awakened, that'll be next week's show. The week after that, we'll probably go with a raid preview show. So that will be an episode that is the 2 days before Heroic Week starts or whatever, or 3 days before Heroic Week starts. So we'll do a show that previews Ny'alotha, and then from there it'll be the show before Mythic Week. We're not 100% sure what the topic will be on that. It might be also on the raid or Mythic preview.
Yeah, it'll be a Mythic preview and then raid, like a heroic raid review where we just talk about
what
how we
happened
feel
in
about
Heroic
the
Week.
bosses. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll do that, and then after that, once Mythic progression starts, we're not sure exactly what shows will look like. We're not sure how progression or anything will impact our schedule, so we will be sure to update you as soon as possible, and we will try our best to make as many shows as we can, but there may be a chance that we end up taking some number of weeks off for Mythic progression. So that's our plan for the next couple weeks. At least 3 shows ahead of us covering Awakened and the raid. And for now, let's do this show. But first, let's talk about social media. On Twitter, we are at Titanforge WoW. On Discord, we have a Discord, which is linked in the description of this episode, or I screwed up. And we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Titanforge, where thanks to the wonderful support of so many people, we are now making hundreds of dollars per month to create this show. Huh? Tens of dollars, yeah, many tens of dollars now. So those supporters at the highest levels on our Patreon are Ahar of US Proudmore, Paul of US Proudmore, King of Skills, VTech XD, Rock, Zuko, Grizz Best Boomy NA, Ja, Uncle Please Invite, Restore Khalifa D, Drunk Swede from Legion of Lemmings Argent Dawn EU, Dratnos' Dino Pillow, Actually Tootsie, Heltari, Ishiyu, Blue of Emerald Dream, Chromed, and Seraphicus. Thanks so much. Thanks. And if anybody is on that list and would like me to say something different when I'm reading their name, just get in touch. And if anybody should be on that list and is not, just get in touch with us either, or probably what you need to do is join our Discord. That's the big way that we give out our Patreon rewards. So Joining Discord and linking your Discord with Patreon is the easiest way to get them. The second easiest way is just DMing me, and we'll sort it out as well. Okay, so Mechagon preview is our main topic this week. But before we get into that, let's just quickly cover some bigger changes that are coming to M+. We have an affix change that we mentioned a little while ago, but we should re-mention that. We should revisit this because it is very relevant. Quaking
this is
nerf.
going to be part of the 8.3. Yeah.
Okay, so Tettles, have you played with this quaking nerf now on PTR? Yeah.
I did yesterday.
Okay, Trell
it was
did.
awesome.
Awesome. Okay, so what is the quaking nerf and what does it do?
Quaking is basically, well, it's a good affix in my opinion now, because with correct play, it doesn't damage you anymore. And there's going to be there's a few situations where it could be worse than before. Like if 3 or more people are stacked together, then it's going to deal more damage than it did last patch. But if you're just by yourself, then it deals 0 damage. So the big thing is that good counterplay makes it a great affix, in that it doesn't like randomly kill your tank anymore. Your ranged DPS still need to stop casting, unfortunately, but that's still the only unavoidable downside.
Yeah, so this thing is going to go from being like the top damage source in a dungeon to like 10th or something overall, or lower. So this is fantastic. It's still going to be hard in like, if you're in a pug, I don't know, I see people worried that this will do more damage in like lower keys, but I really, like, how often are you actually stacking 2 or more people on these things? Because every time you do this perfectly, it does no damage now. That's so good compared to what it used to be.
Realistically, did you play it in Workshop at all? How is it on Cujo?
I didn't play it in Workshop. I played it in Siege. But in Siege, like, I don't think I ever even took damage from any other player. I was able to avoid all quaking damage completely throughout the entire key, which felt so amazing. And the little things like being able to mount during quaking because it doesn't damage you anymore is so nice.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, it's not going to break stealth for Brewmasters because it's not going to engage your stagger mechanic.
I know.
That is
it won't
incredible.
break me out of Shroud anymore.
Yeah.
Now I only have to worry about Null Barrier and Echoing Void.
Wow. Echoing Void.
Wow.
Okay, Echoing Void, shout out the biggest nerf that any trait is about to get. Echoing Void in the next week is just going to get destroyed. It's going to get such a big nerf. For those of you who don't know, Echoing Void right now...
70%.
Bigger than 70. It's going to be like 75%. 75 or 80% nerf to Echoing Void is coming. That thing is doing so much damage right now. It's a corruption on the PTR that like explodes for damage based on your max health, and it is going to be gone. All right. Right now, it is so overpowered that Morning Wind is top damage in groups as a rogue with this trait. Playing subtlety and just playing trinkets and stam flask, like stam trinkets, stam flasks, stam potions, because it scales off your max health. So that is 100% not making it to live. I would be shocked if that thing made it to live. If it does make it to live, it'll be like Echoing Blades, the most recent echoing thing they've made, which made it to live for 3 hours before they nerfed it by 75%. So that is what they'll do with that thing.
It's doing like 40% of Morning's damage throughout a dungeon with just 2 corruption traits of it, and they're like pretty low rolled traits, I think. On my Guardian Druid, it's doing 50% of my damage with 1 trait in an overall dungeon, which is actually insane how they even put that in the game.
Yeah, unbelievable. Okay, in addition to quaking, we have also got some notes about Freehold coming that you may not have heard of, and King's Rest. So, Tettles, what is happening in Freehold?
The Azurite Powder Shot's getting a nerf, Pistol Shot's getting a nerf, and then Eudora's Powder Shot are also getting nerfs. So all 3 of the things that you will typically get one-shot by in Freehold are getting a nerf. How much it changes is really TBD. I don't think this changes entirely too much, especially early on with the armor scaling changes that are coming into the patch. Eudora is going to be just as deadly as she is currently, but that will change once you actually do end up getting more gear.
Yeah, it's kind of a like Eudora's difficulty relative to the rest of the dungeon's damage is getting lowered, which is nice. Although the thing is, Eudora and Crag are like the only targets in the dungeon who hit, the DPS, right? Everything else DPS can avoid the damage on. So these effects are still likely to be the things that will start one-shotting first, because it's not like they really matter to the tank.
I mean, that Pistol Shot's a really good change because Pistol Shot's not one-shotting you, though. It is just like overly dangerous.
Yeah, pistol shot is just like if it targets you twice, you die in a high key. And now there's actually room for like 1 GCD of healing to fix that instead of like it needing to be like a big swift mend, or else you're just dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they didn't change Azurite Powder Shot, which I think should probably be changed in a different way, not just like a flat damage nerf.
Yeah.
Part of the issue with it is that you can't defensive it. You can't like defensive it whenever it's coming out, because you can tell who it's targeting by target of target. But since it's like a 0.5 second cast, you would have to have just like unholy amount of reaction time plus good ping to be able to even press the defensive quick enough.
Tettles, the last time I was in the Freehold, I read my favorite book, the Book of the Unshackled, and that turned me into a little goblin guy. And then there was this wacky piece of wood that I could stand behind, and Azurite Powder Shot didn't hit me. So,
do you have any advice on that?
Well, I don't know. It's one of my favorite toys, the Book of the Unshackled. That you just read that, and sometimes it helps you out on boss fights. I guess, I don't know. If you don't have that one, Mana Storm's Duplicator is the other one, by the way. That might also be your favorite toy that you use for role playing purposes.
Do you have a clip of it?
I actually do not know, but.
All right, it's just so ridiculous that we have to turn into a freaking goblin and stand behind a piece of wood to dodge a boss mechanic that would otherwise one-shot you. If they could just increase the cast time on that thing by like 0.5 seconds, it would just solve all these degenerate strategies.
Yeah. Certainly very, very clever use of game mechanics there. Okay. In addition to freehold changes, we have King's Rest nerfs. King's Rest has gotten a boatload of nerfs. The notable ones are 6% nerf to Severing Axe.
Ooh.
17% nerf to Severing Blade, and 19% nerf to Frost Shock. Unfortunately, they have buffed Shadow of Zul by 94%.
I was going to say that.
And by that, I mean that you can no longer skip it, but they nerfed its health by 6%. So if you think about it, that's a 94% health nerf, sort of. But it's, I don't know, it's obviously it's good that you can't skip that thing, but they really should have looked at more than just a 6% health nerf to make it a reasonable mob to pull. I heard like
half 25
half its damage and quadruple the count it gives or something, and we're talking about a reasonable enemy to pull. Yeah. Also,
still worth just as much as the constructs that you can pull 4 of. Yeah,
exactly. Like the constructs are the same count as a Shadow Azul, and you can fight 4 of them at the same time. Could you imagine fighting 4 Shadows Azul at the same time? Like
that would be intense.
Or like the Purification
maybe
construct. Dude, maybe. Or Blood Death Knight. You know.
I think I'd rather fight 2 Purification constructs at once than fight 1 Shadow of Zul.
Yeah. Zul is nasty. How can you somebody in chat is asking us how we can do Zul this week without a druid or a hunter. Like if you can't soothe that thing on Raging Week, yeah, I don't know, you run away.
You have to have an extremely skilled tank player that knows how to completely drop the dot right as Zul hits 30% and keeps aggro for the rest while perfectly kiting him at his max range and not getting hit again. Yeah, that's the only strategy you can do.
Without Soothe, yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you're at a low enough key level that you don't need to defensive the top 70%, then you can like full defensive the bottom half 30%, but not reasonable.
You drop it 5 key levels and try again?
Yeah, drop it in 3 chests.
Drop it to a +3 so you don't get raging. Is raging a +4 affix?
Yeah, it is. Nice.
Shit.
Nice. Okay. So in aggregate, I think these nerfs are minor, but they've nerfed a lot of the correct abilities to nerf. They've just nerfed them by such a small amount that I fail to see this being like super impactful. We'll see though. We'll see what effect these nerfs end up having. Let's move on to our tip of the week segment. My tip of the week is that you should collect bonus roll coins now and start saving up. So at the time this podcast is being recorded and coming out, you should try and exit this reset with 1 bonus roll if your plan is to have maximum bonus rolls for Ny'alotha. And then next week you'll exit with 3 bonus rolls. The week after that you'll exit with 5 bonus rolls and go into Heroic Week then with both 5 bonus rolls and the ability to buy 2 more. So that is the optimal way to have max bonus rolls for the new raid. Trell, what is your tip of the week?
Before I say my tip of the week, I just wanted to include that Dradnos wrote in his tip of the week on our notes, yeet, yeet, get them coins, LMAO. All right. My tip of the week is everyone should stock up on like 20 to 30 Lightfoot potions on all their characters, probably for the 8.3 opening quest line. That quest line is really long and mostly indoors. And I've definitely used like 20 Lightfoots on my alts trying to get through it on PTR.
So would you say you get them Lightfoots, Lamau?
No, I do not say that.
I don't know. I think that's basically his tip of the week, man. I think it's a good tip though. Lightfoots, or I think Invisbots as well, can be used for good effect through some of those scenarios too. So stocking up on both of those kind of effects, they're good for M+, but they will also speed up your questing. Tettles, you have 2 clips of the week listed here.
Yes.
Okay, we'll start off with this one from Waycrest Manor here.
Perfect.
Waycrest Manor, titled No Dude. Let's take a look at the screen here. Okay.
Yeah, so there's an interesting predicament
So
going on
familiar.
with Trell.
I can use this one.
I don't remember this one.
Oh.
Do you want to explain to us why you
This one.
shift out of bear form and get meleeed by the boss, by the way?
God damn it.
All right. So
I'm
I
dead.
try to get the boss in the first fire. It disappears moments before.
No, dude.
Then I go to the next fire. And at this point, I'm about to get one shot anyway. And it disappears, of course. I go to the third fire. It also disappears.
Okay.
But I was banking on that fire hitting the boss, and I was going to cast Wild Growth because it was going to be a lot of damage. And so either way, I was going to die, and so I shifted out to cast Wild Growth.
Yeah, that
bear, by the way.
that was that. I mean, like that's a timeless story, right? Doing that in the fires disappearing right as you try and bring the Soulbound Goliath into them. As a
Man,
tank.
all 3 in a row, though. That was
As a DPS player, it looks
No
easy,
counter.
right? It's like, oh yeah, just look for the new ones to spawn. But like, man, when you're tanking this thing, you were just like trying to figure out if you're about to die and what you need to do to not die the whole way through. So you don't actually know which fires are the new ones necessarily. Okay, we have another clip of the week
Audio.
here. This one.
Audio.
Okay, this one needs audio. All right, let's listen. Let's listen in. It's pretty quiet. Maybe I need to turn up. Okay.
You cannot elude. You cannot elude. You cannot elude my target.
Man, my Twitch is actually so scuffed right now.
it's lagging, huh?
Yeah, I have such a bad, like, I've had this problem actually for like 2 weeks now, where whenever I'm streaming, my Twitch clips really lag. But we heard Trell here say you cannot elude my targeting systems. Is that what's going on?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what is going on. King Mechagon has some of the best voice lines in the history of man, and I promise at some point we are going to be saying them over and over again. It's really
Yeah,
I
I'm
really
sorry.
like voice lines.
I'm sorry, I did a bad job there. The clip did not do justice to it. But Trell, can you give us a "you cannot elude my targeting systems" real quick?
Cannot elude my targeting systems. You cannot elude. You cannot elude. You cannot elude my targeting systems.
Why does it keep saying them back to back? Is that like if you vanish it or
the rogues
something?
are vanishing.
Okay,
Wow.
yeah.
2 people vanished in a row, yeah.
All right, cool. So with that clip of the week, let's transition into our Mechagon episode. So we are starting with Outer Mechagon, far away from King Mechagon. So this is Mechagon Junkyard. This one might be called Lower Mechagon. It might also be called Upper Mechagon by people, because it's technically above the other part of Mechagon. It might be called Outer Mechagon. Might be called Mechagon Prologue. There are a bunch of different things that this one might be called. There's no way to know for sure what's going to catch on, but for now we'll start with calling it just the Junkyard. So, first thing to be aware of in Junkyard is that there are still those robots that you can get in Mythic 0. Those are still acquirable in Mythic Plus, and they bring a pretty sizable set of buffs to your group, and you should plan for getting them all, right? Trell, which of these bots are the most important to pick up?
Well, you definitely want to get the shock bots first because they do so much damage. On my Brewmaster, they were doing like 30% of my damage on I guess they proc off of Rushing Jadewind or something.
Man, are
but
they scaling?
man,
Are they scaling with M+ level, the zap damage or something?
I think they're scaling with eye level, but they could be scaling with key level. I'm not sure. They do a lot of damage though, and if everyone gets one right off the bat, the whole dungeon is just going to go way faster, like literally 20 to 30% faster.
Yeah, then there's the grease bots that bring a haste buff, which is also good damage, but does not show up on the damage meters, obviously, because it just affects all your abilities. and the welding bots, which are 10% DR, right?
Yeah, I think it's 10% extra health and less damage taken.
Yeah, so that increases them to be bigger than 10% DR, because you're getting more health as well. So pretty useful. Pretty useful.
Also increases your echoing void damage because you have more health.
True.
Stop talking.
So with Echoing Void in the state it's in right now, that might be the biggest DPS increase bot, actually. That's sick.
True.
So as of right now, there are not these bot locations in MDT, but they should be in there soon. Is the thought from Nagi, right?
Well, Mechagon isn't even in MDT.
Right, but in the PTR version of it or whatever. Or is that not even in? Is there no PTR MDT?
There's
Okay.
no PTR version
I looked
yet.
earlier and I could not see one. No. I wanted to use it on the show, but you'll just remember the mob names we say and then go and look for it yourself in the runs.
Yeah. We'll maybe revisit this at some point or like tweet a map of these. So if that's something you're interested in, when we get one, we'll maybe tweet a map.
Yeah, I've been watching him stream, like developing it. He's also developed like these Awakened portals that you can drop in portals and out portals as well for Awakened, which will be pretty nice.
Yeah, he's that guy's genius, but he's working on MDT. I think he's trying to get it so that this time it's like ready before, like because last time he had to do Race for World first in the middle of when it would be Awakening coding season or Beguiling coding season.
Right.
And then he just coded in the Beguiling mobs like right as the MDI started.
Yeah.
MDT is the best add-on ever, by the way. Everyone should download it. If you ever want to do one Mythic Plus dungeon in your life, even if you're a healer, get MDT. It's really nice.
Mm-hmm. It's a big difference maker for sure. And if you don't have MDT, you're gonna get flamed in any reasonable group. Okay.
For sure.
So let's talk about the main things that are going on in Junkyard. The biggest thing about Mechagon Junkyard is that there's just a bunch of trash, right? It's just so much trash all throughout the dungeon. You do have to figure out which enemies are the best ones to pull for count and which are the most problematic. Let's start off by talking about the most problematic ones and the ways to play against them. So the first one we have on the list here is the Weaponized Crawler. What does this thing do?
So it's the big spider thing, and if you guys remember the Mariner from Legion, he does, or like the Guardian Elemental that are on the bridge, he does very similar cast to that, except it can't be line of sighted. So it's that like big pulsing AoE Shipbreaker Storm-esque cast. It is so bad and very, very overtuned. And then in addition to that, he also has a single target nuke that will drop one fixated target by like 60% of their health. It's called Scrap Cannon. And it can be taunted off by trees, but not by anything else. So I don't really know what to do with that.
Wait, so the Scrap Cannon cast starts and trees will...
trees like intercept it. Yeah, no other tank can do it, but trees are the best tank.
Wow, that's insane. What about you could do a Prot Warrior could intercept the person, right?
Intervene
The person, yeah.
Maybe. I think it's magic
Safeguard?
damage though.
Okay, they would need
magic
Safeguard.
damage.
They would need Safeguard, yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so there's only one of these that's required, right? There's two in Trixie and Nano's boss room. We only need to pull one though to be able to safely engage the boss, right?
Yeah, we think we have to pull one. We might be able to get away with not pulling it eventually if we figure out how exactly that boss works and where they jump to, but for now we probably need to pull one.
Okay.
It seems overly dangerous to not pull it, especially right now. Maybe if you're tanking the bosses in a different spot, like really far off to the right-hand side, you could get away with not pulling the crawler. But at that point, you'd be pulling the scrap bots. So I'd rather pull the crawler than the scrap bots, I guess.
Right. You kind of have to choose one crawler or two scrap bots to fight to make Trixie and Nano's room, big enough to fight them in. Although maybe you could fight Trixie and Nano in a pretty small space and avoid pulling either. I don't know. Let's take a look at some footage here of what fighting a Weaponized Crawler looks like from old Tettles' stream. So this is on a 17 Mechagon. This is the one that we were talking about that needs to be pulled. You see the Scrap Cannon there gets intercepted by a tree, as Tettles was saying. And the tree just goes down right away. And then here's the Shock Coil cast, which is trucking. Looks like it's doing about 20% of people's health if they're not mitigating it per tick or something. So not too bad. And then yeah, Scrap Cannon there, just not too. It's pretty fine as long as it targets the rogue, I guess. So Rogue's still good.
Yeah, I don't think this guy's too bad yet. I think it might scale out of control in higher level keys, but it seems like we could just use health pots or any kind of minor defensive cooldown there and be okay.
The issue is that you can't pull him with any other mob.
Yeah,
That's true.
So
How are you supposed to pull it with anything else? Like, he doesn't give enough count to warrant pulling solo, but he's too dangerous to pull with anything else. It's just the Shrine of the Storm mini boss phenomenon where it's like, oh, okay, sure, these guys are okay count wise and they're not impossible to deal with, but why would we pull this whenever we can like merge packs together and get twice as much count as pulling this guy solo, because they have to be done solo.
Right, so yeah, the hit points to count ratio on this thing looks fine, but then when you factor in that you can't fight anything else at the same time, then it starts to be really inefficient.
I think that's the issue that they always like run into, is that some trash packs they just don't foresee being done, and like, oh yeah, let's just 3 pull this, and then the alternative is doing a crawler and 1 mob with it. It's like, all right, well, yeah, okay, we got 20 count here.
Yeah,
it's true. It'll be really inefficient. Hopefully, we can skip it soon.
I imagine that eventually, you know, there might be a super clever way to pull that boss room that doesn't fight it. But honestly, if pulling more trash so that you have more boss room is going to be good for the first little bit of this patch. Like, you do not want to pull trash with that boss. Okay, the other trash that is in Trixie and Nano's room is scrap bots. Scrap bots there are 2 guarding each of the 2 main entrances. Although you can sneak into Trixie and Nano's room without fighting any of them, right? If you come around either side, or there's like a hole through the fence that you can jump through.
So yeah, either the hole through the fence or you come through Cat Island.
Mm-hmm.
Cat Island is where there's like 4 cats patrolling around in a big circle. There's 3 buff bots in that area too, so it's kind of tempting to go pull those cats. It creates a nice entrance to the boss room and you get free buffs. But honestly, I don't think we want to pull the cats much once we figure out a way to get past them.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about the cats as well. The cats are in that area near Trixie and Nano. They jump on the farthest ranged player, which apparently is different than the farthest player. Like, they'll actually look for people that are tagged as ranged players, so that means not
ranged.
Yeah,
yes. Not
holy pallies, not some melee player out at range. These things are invisible and they patrol through this area. Demon Hunters can Spectral Sight though to find them. So that's a useful little trick if you're playing with the DH to figure out where they are in their patrol. It's like the Shrouded Fangs in Temple. And ideally, if you want to make sure that you don't have them all leaping at the same time, the leap does leave a nasty bleed behind. So bopping that off is a nice strategy if you do have a paladin. Or your person being leapt on can like blink or whatever as they're being leapt. It's a projectile, their leap is. So if you dodge, you can dodge them, but it's a very fast projectile, right, Tuttles?
Hear me out. If you're far enough away, you can actually just like walk away from it if you're super quick. I've found like 100% success with dashing and running away while being super far away, though. But it is a projectile. Basically, you can use Ursula's Vortex, you can use Ring of Peace, you can use Sigil of Chains if you were an elite caliber gamer. You could use Typhoon, again, elite caliber gamer.
Can you stun it while it's jumping or no?
Don't know. But you can also outrange it, and if you do outrange it and say you are the only ranged DPS that enter your group, it's a 40-yard range, by the way, so Moonking can be outrange of it permanently. But if you are the furthest range DPS in your group, or you're the only ranged DPS in your group and you do outrange it, then it will jump on melee. Yeah. Which it can be dodged with like Blade Dance, Riposte, Die by the Sword, stuff like that.
These are all like the cats from Darkheart Thicket in Legion, or the Skullvault charge from the second to last boss of Halls of Valor in Legion. There's going to be lots of clever use of gameplay to have to dodge.
Man, why you got to do titles like that? Why you got to do titles like that, Trell? We're here in his happy place, the Titanforge podcast, and we got to bring up God King Skovald.
God King Skovald was an outrangeable asshole. Also, FYI, if you're in an evade spot in Mechagon and the Prowler jumps on you, it will sit in the evade spot and spam reset the trash pack. So there's no shenanigans that you can do.
What do you mean? Could you use that to skip stuff? You just use that like the shrine skip to facilitate a big skip?
Probably.
You just blew my fucking mind saying that. Maybe.
There's always something you can do. Whatever the mob behavior is in an evade spot, it does something good for you. Always. Okay. So that's the prowlers that you can avoid scrap bots to pull, or you can avoid pulling scrap bots by jumping through the fence. The third option is to fight the scrap bots. Scrap bots are nasty for a couple of reasons. They're kind of slow and inefficient and tough to pull with other stuff, and they drop this exhaust, which is like a smoke bomb effect. And they do a gyro scrap blade storm thing that makes it so you can't really walk near them while they're doing that. That'll be big one shots in Mythic Plus, I think. Maybe not big one shots, but big damn if you end up tanking that for more than a tick or two.
Okay, so don't pull the scrap bots. Like under no circumstances do you pull them.
Yeah, scrap bots are bad.
They're some of the worst mobs, and you can't do them with anything else. And they're actually liable to kill your melee at any given time. This clip right here shows the scrap bots with the bullies and the grinders. And the grinder is the one that randomly fixates players. Kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And then the bully has an anti-kite mechanic in the form of a spell called Headbutt.
Yeah.
So.
And this scrap bot is basically unavoidable, right? The one scrap bot in King Goblin
that was avoidable. I don't know what we were doing pulling it. It's off to like the left side. It is avoidable though.
Interesting.
The bullies a lot of them are required because there's two of them right in front of the King Goblin walk there. So they're good to know about. I think the headbutt is parryable and dodgeable. So when the tank has to kite for necrotic or anything, pop that if you have it as a melee. They have a 15-second cast or so called Enrage that you can kick. Like any one melee cooldown kick can handle it per mob. And honestly, I think we're going to pull those with the boss at some point. 2 bullies with the boss.
Yeah, Gobamak also has that robot that he spawns too that can kill the grinders, but it won't kill the bully.
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah. So whenever
the robot
Gobamak
during
does
the boss
his
fight.
AoE,
There's 5 things that you can drop your debuff on during the King Gobamak boss fight. One of those is the spinning robot, and that's the thing that'll kill the grinders outside of the encounter as well.
Dude, so what if the strat for this dungeon is you start pulling the whole Trog area and you just keep mass rooting a pile of grinders and you just bring them to the boss and eventually let the mass root drop and kill like 30 grinders with the spinny thing?
Mass root very good in this dungeon, but
Yeah, true. Yeah, it could be a really good strategy, honestly. Round them all up, keep them there, and then release them when the robots spawn.
Yeah, just collect your free count.
Dungeon's pretty weird. What is it? 36-minute timer, I think.
Yep, 36-minute dungeon, which is average time, right? That's it's not as short as a tall at 30 and not as long as King's Retro Shrine at 42. Right in the middle of those two extremes. Pretty fair pretty fair dungeon timer, I think, for this 4-boss dungeon, but there's a lot of trash.
I think if you are able to merge trash packs better, then the dungeon timer would be pretty free. But as it currently stands, 36 feels fairly tight.
This timer is going to feel tight while we're learning it, but when we are double pulling and we're only pulling efficient trash in a couple months, it's going to be, I think, totally reasonable timer.
I think so too, honestly. I think it'll be a good dungeon once we all figure it out.
I don't think it'll be a good dungeon. I think it'll be playable.
Man, I like this kind of open floor plan. Even with there's hard trash with options of what you can pull. I much prefer that to like not hard trash, but you can't have options like Temple. I hate just like running in a straight line through Temple, and like there's like a couple of points to be creative in your Temple route, but really not much.
I mean, it feels very, very BFA-esque, where some shit's just like impossible to pull, like literally impossible to pull, and then there's some stuff that's like okay, like those prowlers, they do such insane damage that I would hard advise to not pull them if you can really avoid it. Like we've been pulling it, but like Trell was saying, if you can avoid it, please. Like there's a lot of mobs that are dangerous to pull, and there's a lot of packs that just like cannot be merged. We have found one pack in the whole dungeon that can be merged with another pack.
All right, so let's take a look at the scrap hounds near the start of the dungeon. These are true sight enemies, right? So that's something to watch out for. Is that sneaking around in Mechagon Junkyard is a little bit of a pain because of these scrap hounds. And the big thing they do is an ability called Bork. What is Bork?
Bork is a very hard to see frontal cone. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it in chat, but it's like a light blue animation. You can probably see it in this clip here.
Yeah, we'll see if we can. We'll see how well the clip behaves. It looks like it's doing okay.
The constructs in
Yeah, there it is. There it is. It's much
shittier
like
than
those.
I have to like
It's shittier
squint.
than that.
Okay, let's pause on it if we can. There. You'll see this little blue effect on the ground here is the Bork Telegraph. So A of all, that's probably gonna get changed soon. They'll probably make the projection more clear. If I have like the biggest nerf that I've seen Blizzard willing to do to dungeons is just to make the telegraph bigger. That's what they've done a couple times, and I expect that'll be something that happens with Bork because people are going to complain about dying to it. But yeah, as of right now, it is a really tough to see thing, and if you get hit by it, it is a large haste slow, right?
Yeah, and it's also not
Yeah.
shiftable for some reason.
Yeah,
Which is-
that is
I think if
massive.
it hits your healer,
I need to
it's
be
gonna
able
be
to
very
stand
hard to
in it.
recover from.
Oops. Okay. So that's the scrap hounds. What do you think about pulling this thing? Like, this is something that we are going to pull, right? We're going to pull scrap hounds, or do you think we skip them all?
We might pull like one pack of them. Honestly, we did 4 together, and even on a 15 to 17 level without fortified, it was starting to feel very, very risky.
I mean, part of the problem is that that's like near one of the like earliest shock bots that you can get, because there are gonna be some groups that you're gonna run like invisible, like players that have an invisibility, such as rogues and druids, and they can go grab some really early shock bots that are in prime positions. But that's one of the earliest shock bots that you can grab that you would just have to pull one trash pack that's next to it. So I expect that at least one of the scrap hound packs will be pulled.
Yeah, I agree. There's also some scrap hound packs like in the Trixie and Nano boss room, so we have to deal with them, I think.
Yeah, you
plus
have to
they're
fight those. Yeah, there.
Plus, they're also like really early on into the instance, so there's no huge issue with double pulling a scrap hound pack and bloodlusting it, right? I don't know where else you would get a bloodlust usage, because the dungeon is so strangely laid out to where the next pack that you would want a bloodlust would be something in Gabamac's room. Oh, something that I didn't even put on there is about the hard mode stuff. Oh shit, I need to talk about that in the notes too.
What is the deal with the hard mode stuff?
So basically, hard mode is on a weekly rotation on where the bot is going to be.
Do we think this is making it to live?
It's going to be. I don't know. I hope the thing gets removed, but
I hope it gets removed. But for now, I mean, at least you would know before you go into the key, right? Not like Waycrest where it's random every time. Like this week, you just know you can't go to Gunker first. You have to choose either Trixie and Nano or King Gabamok first.
Right, because there's no benefit to doing hard mode, so you just need to kill one of the other bosses to disable it.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Okay. Let's talk about the gnome-eating slimes. These are from Gunker's room, and the most important thing about these enemies is that they split at HP breakpoints. They turn into like smaller slimes there, kind of like the Asteroids game or whatever, where you shoot the asteroid and it turns into 2 smaller ones or whatever. The big problem here is that the small slimes do on death affixes, so you're pulling one trash mob that is going to bolster 6 times, as you fight it, and burst 6 times, and sanguine 6 sanguine pools. Mid fight
bursting is actually so troll because they do a cat. I don't even know what the name of their cast is. It's like consume or some shit, and it does like a small incidental amount of group damage. But if it's bursting, you just like instantly wipe to it. You're just like, this is so shit.
Yeah, the bursting is a big problem.
These spawned mobs should definitely not do on death affixes, and I think once Blizzard realizes that, hopefully they'll fix it. But for now, just be aware: 6 bolsters on one mob is not.
Yeah,
most of the trash
we'll have to see.
Is not bad though. I think that the limiting factor on why you're not why you would have to be slow through Gunker are the slimes, not the gnome-eating slimes, and the what is that other mob that does it?
The big consume one?
No, not
the
that
slime
one.
wave guys.
The slime bolt. Yeah,
the slime bolt, slime wave thing. The one that looks like a water elemental. Yeah,
yeah, the water ellie. I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm. I just closed
slime elemental. I think it's a slime elemental. I think one melee player or a rogue can stop most of their stuff. Like they can kick and then they can gouge the charge wave that they do. Yeah.
Gouge very good. Continue. Gouge very good in this dungeon. It looks like there's quite a few things that are gougeable. Okay. Let's talk about Trixie and Nano, the boss fight. We're not going to talk about Gunker or Gobamac or the HK8 aerial oppression unit. Those are fights that we aren't going to try and help with they work the same way that they have worked in the past. So
they're relatively the same. We didn't see anything like super dangerous about them on 15 at the 15 level Mythic Plus yet. Like maybe they'll change something, but for now they're okay.
Yeah, but Trixie and Nano is a lethal boss. They've nerfed it by quite a bit. So all of Mechagon has had like scaling nerfs coming into PTR. Basically, they've taken a pass through the whole dungeon and hit a bunch of abilities by some percentages. Trixie and Nano is one such boss where it's taken like a pretty large nerf, but it is still very lethal. So there are a few things that are worth noting. The one thing is that the Tase cast is vital to kick, right? You want to kick this almost every time. Depending on how many melee you have in your group, you might have to miss some kicks. Like if you bring Tettles to your group, you might have to miss some kicks or whatever. If you're playing 3 melee, you should just get all of the kicks. Otherwise, you want to let it through when it's on like the tank or on, somebody with Cloak or whatever. Whatever class you bring that has Cloak of Shadows. Any of the classes that have Cloak of Shadows really is fine in the plus.
I needed to test this. You may be able to stand in the exhaust from Nano, and if the cast is on you, it may actually not cancel it, but it may just like not hit you. I need to test that some more.
Yeah, so that's what you use. You use the exhaust cloud for the mega tase, right? But not the regular tases. Yeah,
but I was talking about using it for the regular tase to be able to see if that would actually just
interesting
be able to.
Maybe we pull one of the scrap bots to have more smoke bombs to hide in.
Wow, that's an MDI strat. I can't believe you're leaking. That works.
Hold on, let's get to the MDI strats in a second.
Yeah, you have to not kill Trixie first, right? You kill Trixie first and the other boss at 80%, you're gonna wipe, because when one of these bosses dies, the other gets empowered and their autos start like cleaving the raid for their whole damage or something. So those two bosses need to die within a couple seconds of each other in Mythic Plus and High Keys, or you're gonna wipe. And the big thing as well that I think people have not necessarily been aware of is the guy Nano. He has or is it Trixie? I don't actually remember which one the guy is. It's Nano. Okay,
we'll wipe your group. Yeah,
Nano has a Bolt Buster ability that is this frontal that does not have a projection for. This ability is very, very likely to kill people in pugs. Like if you're not aware of how Bolt Buster works, it's going to kill you. So this is just like, make sure you have an alert for it. And if you see Nano casting Bolt Buster, he's going to kill anybody in front of him in like 2 seconds. So
well, that only happens once Trixie is dead, right?
No,
it happens throughout the fight. Whenever Nano gets off his motorcycle, so it starts happening like 30 seconds into the fight, right?
Okay. But it's only dangerous. Dashing around. But it's only dangerous once Trixie dies.
No,
okay.
It's
dangerous all the time.
Yeah, it's gonna like kill random people who get hit by it.
Never mind. Okay, shit.
Yeah. He'll get off his motorcycle Tuttles, and then he'll like run over to the tank and then start casting his Bolt Buster, which you can sidestep as a tank, so no one has to get hit by it. And if you just face it away from your
in M0, it's like a 60% hit right now. So in M plus, it's going to be murdering.
So why exactly do you want to DPS Trixie and Nano simultaneously then? Like, what's the point? Because he's not going to be in his
whichever one. Like if one of them dies first, the other then their autos get empowered to just nuke the whole raid.
Oh, and that empowers Bolt Buster to fucking
Bolt Buster is not something that matters there. The thing that matters is just that every single auto attack that Nano does will cleave lightning damage onto everybody for like 80% of their health per auto.
If he lands the hit. Like I was just sitting there tanking him on Brewmaster because I was dodging almost every single hit and the group took no damage. But if I was on something like Guardian, I would be very afraid.
Yeah, so it does need to, you can kite it for a little while, you can run away, but like you can't safely tank Nano unless you're playing with like a Holy Paladin and Wings or whatever. There's no way to heal through that damage on the raid when Trixie's dead. Okay, let's talk about some final other notes for the dungeon. We're not going to do like some full guides for other trash. We'll just mention a couple of specific abilities from them. First is the Renormalizer when they enrage somebody with Enlarge or whatever. So when Renormalizer casts Enlarge, that is spell stealable, and it brings like 100% damage and 100% health. So that is going to be nerfed. That's one of those spell steal effects that will be nerfed in a couple weeks. But for now, if you have a mage in your group, you should just bring around a renormalizer so that they can keep spell stealing and rage and murder the whole dungeon, right?
Do you remember the Blackrock Hold mob? Now imagine that, but better.
Yeah.
And that is the renormalizer. You can so you don't have to spam shackle it or whatever the DK mind control was to be able to make sure that your Death Knight doesn't die. So your mage can actually just wheel that mob around with you the whole entire time. And if for some odd chance it could potentially die, you could also just spam Sheep it and heal it to full. Cool. Yeah.
So Operation Mechagon, as it stands, is probably like a 3 mage dungeon. You know, you just get 3 mages, you get 3 renormalizers, and you just seal 3 enlarges, and then you just combust and one-shot the whole dungeon, right?
All right, Balance Mod's making a comeback, baby.
Man, that would be so hard to coordinate. I'm thinking through this right now. Having more than one of those guys would be so difficult to
What do you mean? You just mark them.
Sheeping and then tanking for a sec to let the debuff go out, stealing, re-sheeping, then going.
No, they don't even need to be unless you're worried.
Yeah, you can just let him. You can let him hit your tank. It's whatever. You just bring him with you. Oh yeah, Frost Nova as well. Anyways, Ring of Frost too. So that's something that works right now on the renormalizers. Other thing to worth knowing is that Gunker and the Gunker Trash, knowing what you have Goop dispels for is important. If you are a comp without a disease dispel, that's going to be a lot worse for you, because during the Gunker fight, you can dispel both the bots and the players that get gooped, and that's very valuable. That saves you a lot of damage, especially in M+. And on the trash pulls, having a disease dispel is nice too. So Pally, Priest, Monk are the disease dispels.
Yeah, and read off my notes, why don't you?
Look, man, I would have known that. I would have known that without you having to add it to the show notes. And of course, people can AMS or cloak before they would take it as well and be fine. This dungeon is not
disease dispels. There's pretty nice quality of life, but I don't think they're required by any means. They're just nice to have for those mistakes.
Yeah, I think one is good. Like on Gunker, dispelling the bots instead of having to walk around and kill them. That's pretty big, I think.
I think Gunker, a dispel for the bots is. I don't say mandatory. I think it's fairly important, because if you had to kill the bot, you would actually be in such a bad spot. Mm-hmm. Because not only are you sacrificing a significant amount of damage to be able to kill the goop, but then the robot is stunned for a little while and not cleaning up the area around the boss.
It's pretty likely to spiral out of control, right? Like the bot gets gooped, then somebody else gets gooped because the bot is gooped, and then you lose damage on the goops because of that, and then it's over.
Yeah. And also, I guess another good note: Gunker, the middle of him, even while he's spawning, will goop you instantly.
Yeah.
That's
at Trell.
Don't roll too far into the boss on pole, boys. It's a mistake. You'll get gooped.
All right, we have Anodized Coil Bearers in this dungeon too. This is trash that basically never gets pulled in Mythic 0, right? Because it's kind of out of the way. But in Mythic Plus, these look like the best count that you can get in the dungeon in terms of difficulty. So here's the Anodized Coil Bearers area. It's kind of in the area just off to the right of the path before the last boss of Junkyard. And what these mobs, what do they do? Anything important?
The Coil Bearers are probably the easiest mobs in the whole dungeon. They're great. I think they're going to be a good count. I don't think they're the ones that put the bleed out, but they do cast the it's the magic damage AoE that's interruptible, and then all they do other than that is auto attack. I'm pretty sure. So you just kite them around and get free count. And all the mobs next to them are just really good pulls. Like that screenshot there, you can see all the normalizers and
troopers. Yeah,
troopers. Those are all very good mobs to pull. Like you could pull 3 packs together. It's probably the only place in the whole dungeon that you can triple pull right off the bat without much practice. So I plan on getting a lot of count there if you can.
Troopers do the bleed according to Morning, and the bleed, I think what is it, like 15 or 20 seconds, but it doesn't go on nearest target, so you can just run around and kite it up.
That's nice. That is a welcome change of pace.
It's very unique for these dungeons these days.
Okay. On kind of a meta level, this is not a dungeon that is super kick intensive. So do you think this is maybe a double range dungeon that you can get away with here? Or do you think Trixie and Nano being kick intensive is enough to make it so double ranged is banned?
I think the dots that Trixie and Nana put out so far aren't the worst. And if you let a few go out, it's fine with proper cooldowns. Or maybe if we even use the smoke bombs correctly, maybe we just avoid them entirely with 2 range. Who knows? Maybe range is better because they can step into the smoke bomb.
I think being selective with who it goes on, though, is the most important thing.
Yeah, just making sure you don't kick it when it's on the tank.
Yeah.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah.
I think this could be a double range dungeon, though, for sure.
Yeah, because then you could maybe do like big pulls with where you kill stuff fast enough. I don't know. Okay. Let's talk about, so just in general, when you've got an open dungeon like this, we are going to be for the next couple months in sort of experiment mode and iteration mode on our route. Let's talk about what that looks like. So when you're looking at a big wide open dungeon like this, what's kind of the philosophy, Trell, with making the route?
So once I get MDT for Mechagon and Nagi's all finished sorting out what the mobs do and how much count they give and where they're located and all that, you always want to select the required mobs first in a route. So you go to King Gabamok and select the 2 bullies and all the trash nearby that would likely pull during the boss fight, because you're going to have to do those mobs. You want to select all the Awakened mini bosses. They all give 4 count. We think they might give 6 count on teaming. I don't know if that was ever confirmed. Something like that happened in Upper Mechagon, though, on teaming.
That's so weird.
Dude, I think it may actually just be like that the whole entire time. That was so weird, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once you finish looking at the required mobs for the dungeon, you got the MDT, and you'll see you have like 60% count already from required mobs. And then you want to pull the most efficient trash after that and like put them in the path you want to go toward in the dungeon. So let's say you kill Gunker and you know you're going to want to go toward Trixie and Nano. You can do this triple pull up here on the screen on the way there. That's a really good stop, and you can get more buff bots in the way and all that. So just designing a route like that with those 2 things in mind is good.
Yeah, and in Mechagon in particular, getting those bots as early as possible, the most important ones, is going to be something that will be a characteristic of the final routes. But while we're getting started, we're going to be iterating on that, right? We'll be figuring that out as we go along. Okay, overall thoughts on Mechagon Junkyard Titles. What's your kind of top line takeaway on what Junkyard is like?
Glad it's open concept. It does feel very, very BFA-esque, where some mobs are just like wildly more difficult, and I don't want to say not pullable because they're definitely pullable, but they're wildly more difficult, and they don't give very good count relative to being able to pull it into any other trash. It just feels very BFA-esque in that regard.
Like all the trash is obnoxious. BFA. Yeah.
I think the first like couple of weeks, people are going to suffer and have very, very bad runs in this dungeon. But once you actually get a very good grasp of what can be pulled and what should be pulled, you'll be okay. I know the first couple of times we did Junkyard, we were in there for like 55 minutes on this dungeon. It was like, holy shit, get me out. Yeah. But then after like the 5th or 6th run, we started timing it.
You were testing it on 15, right, and stuff when you were doing these?
Which is equivalent of a 19.5 on live, which we're more than capable of doing. But
right, that would be fairly easy for you with like no big affixes.
Yeah, we're not even playing affixes, and it's still not the absolute easiest thing. But granted, the strategies we're using are not that great. So I think as more strategies come out, it will get easier. But very BFA-esque in that regard.
It looks like this is going to be a dungeon that gets played a lot at +5 during like +5 week, right? So you're going to get a lot of like kind of free practice on this thing, because everybody's going to want to do these dungeons for the Mechagon rings, and there's going to be that week where you don't farm higher than +5s probably. So that is going to be a time to like kind of practice all these things, I guess.
I'm in a weird spot where I think I want to advise people to avoid this dungeon like really
on difficulty.
Yeah, just because like people are going to suck ass at this dungeon super early. If you give it 2 or 3 weeks, people will be significantly better.
It's true. I actually really like the dungeon, though, and I think once the general population gets used to it, they'll kind of see it as a freehold eventually, maybe later in the path. It's so open, and with the not even mentioned yet options that the Awakened Affix gives you, where you can just pop up anywhere in the dungeon out of the portals. It's so nice to just like go around and kill any mob you want. I don't feel like it's freehold. I feel like it's more a Taldazar without any Sarad snaps.
That's the optimist versus pessimist way of looking at the dungeon, huh?
I don't know. I mean, like it's open concept, and it's like some parts of it are really fun, but then some parts of it just suck ass.
Okay, so let's talk now about part 2 of Mechagon. Inner Mechagon, upper Mechagon, Mechagon 2.
Workshop.
Mechagon Workshop. So this is a kind of the exact opposite of Mechagon Junkyard. Instead of there being a bunch of trash and an open floor plan, we are now looking at a very linear path with very little trash and a lot of bosses, right? Kind of the upper Karazhan to outer Mechagon's lower Karazhan, or lower Mechagon's lower Karazhan, or whatever. First thing you're gonna do when you encounter this dungeon is there's a trash pull before the first boss. That's the Rocket Tonks and Strider Tonks. What is important about this trash pull? Is this going to be something that kills you more?
Yes. We did it on Fortified yesterday, and we all instantly died. But that's because we missed a kick, and it was easily avoidable. So there's 2 kicks to get right off the bat. The 2 bomb tonks cast detonate, I think. You need to kick that, or else people are going to die. And then the other thing is you want to stack on the mobs at first, because their own rocket barrage will kill themselves. Just like the last boss of Freehold.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I did not know that. So that trash pull then, fairly easy if you do that. And then you're going to encounter the Tussle Tonks, which is the first boss. This is a boss that has received, I think the Platinum Pummeler has received an 85% base health nerf or something from live to PTR.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is in fact correct. He has received an 85% health nerf.
Which is good, because otherwise this thing would scale up to like a 7-hour boss fight in Mythic Plus. I don't know, you run into this spot in live where the Platinum Pummeler is alive and you have 2 minutes to kill it. That would get way worse than M+. Beyond that, though, there are a couple of... So basically the cadence of this fight is that most of the group is DPSing the tank, and the Pummeler is being kited around by your group's tank into the hammer things. In the meantime, the tank is going to be casting maximum thrust and charging at the threat target that they have. Ideally, this can be the tank, but in practice, your tank is not generating threat on this thing. So it's likely to be other members of your group, unless your tank is like somehow making it so that they can do some damage and get threat, or you have a bunch of tricks or something. Or they can taunt. Healing aggro can do it too. Right? It should just be the DPS person, though, that does the most damage to this taunt.
It's probably going to be a DPS player with threat on it, unless your tank has Crucible or is a prop paladin that can just keep tanking from range pretty easily. Like I spam taunt on it, and I barely hold threat while using all my Crucible charges on it as a brewmat, so I can foresee lots of... I mean, it's just good to know for DPS, because he's not going to melee you, but he will maximum thrust in your direction, whoever has threat on it.
Yeah, so baiting that so that it just kind of bumps itself against the wall that it's near is a good strategy to avoid it, like, zipping all the way across the room. The
fucking RP mob, too. If you accidentally maximum thrust into the mob that is for the achievement, it's still in the game. Yeah, so try not to do that.
That's bad.
It actually happens really often too. I've had that mob spawn like 3 times in the last week.
Flame jets, also big damage. That's when the tonk just starts like firing off flame at anybody who's nearby and chasing the threat target that they have. So getting out of melee for this thing is going to be mandatory, or else you're going to take like Kragmaw Tantrum levels of damage for as long as you stand near it, right?
It's already Kragmaw.
You actually take that damage no matter what. If you stand near it, you're just going to get one shot.
Okay.
But the minimum damage you take is like the Kragmaw's Tantrum. So that's a big CD planning period. Like the healer needs to have a lot of stuff for that. DPS needs to use their cooldown.
Yeah, and it is. You can use like avoidance. You can feint it. It is an AOE. It's also magic damage, so you can like cloak it. Demon Hunter tattoos are probably also pretty good for that.
We do like tattoos. So for the most part, though, you're just killing that tank while your group's tank moves the... Dude, I'm saying the word tank so many times. This sucks. You're killing the tonk while your tank moves the pummeler around the room. Then, obviously the tank is trying to keep threat on the tonk, but sometimes it goes bad.
What exactly is a tonk?
Well... it's what you do if you're trying to name your tank, but you can't thonk very well. You make it a tonk instead.
I'm a tonk.
Yeah. Okay. Before the encounter starts, it's also good to make sure that whoever is closest to the tonk is aiming it well, because it will immediately maximum thrust the person closest to it. So you want to make sure that is baited like right up against the wall and not at the RP mob. So do that. And then, yeah, the fight is the same as it is on Mythic 0. Okay. That boss dies. We go into the trash before Cujo. And this is waste processing units, junkyard dogs, and the slimes on death explosion. Trell, what does the waste processing unit do?
These things are they're a big robot with a big hitbox that like to just shuffle around the tank. So everyone needs to be really careful in the group about where these frontals actually land. Because a lot of times they'll just flip around and frontal toward your DPS, even though they're supposed to do it at the tank because their hitboxes are too big. I think you can outrange their hit as a tank, but I get hit by the first part of their frontal quite often. I feel like it just targets you until it finally goes off. And they also have a circle around them called, what was that called?
Process waste or some shit. I don't know what it's actually called.
They drill into the ground. They do a circle around them.
They drill into the ground. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
They drill into the ground and anybody nearby. Yeah.
They can also be stunned and CC'd, which is surprising because mobs that look like that normally aren't able to, like the extractors in Motherlode, just like can't be CC'd, but for some reason the drill processing units can.
They very much look like lieutenant mobs, and they are very much not. Yeah. The junkyard dogs do a high magic damage dot to random people, so careful of those. The main
those
thing
dogs do quite a lot of damage. Actually, I think that's a big point to use CDs around as a healer. Is if there's junkyard dogs in the pool, like especially 2, you probably want to use a lot of CDs.
Wait, and are they actually dangerous?
Yeah, they do a lot of tank damage, and their magic debuff does quite a lot too.
And then the slimes do an on-death explosion that is going to murder people in pugs and stuff, but it is notably line of sightable. So in Mythic Plus, there are these pillars that you can find all throughout the room, and you can just pull these slimes next to one of the pillars, and everybody else in your group can go on the other side of the pillar, and you're not going to die to the slime explosion then. So that is the big strat for these.
This is a bad pillar. Okay, so
yeah, I was about to use the bad pillar. This is a good pillar though, right here.
Yeah, so
you can also DB it or incapacitating roar it, right? The death.
You can, yeah. If they all die evenly, that's a good consistent strategy. But if they get DB'd when only 2 slimes are going off, for example, and then the 13 others hit the group, then everyone's going to die.
Yeah, again, sorry about the low resolution. I have big problem with YouTube on stream, so I'm sorry.
You need better internet.
It's not even my internet. My internet's fine. It's
they streaming like 3500 bitrate or something.
That's not bad. That's not that bad.
Yes, it is.
Come on, it's fine.
It was not bad 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's still not bad now-ish. I don't know. Give me a break. It's okay. Maybe there's some weird. It's just when I'm streaming that and it's not the rest of the internet. It's just clips are bad. Okay, so that's the slime area. Cujo is the next boss, which is basically the same thing that you have to do in Mythic 0, right? You have to dodge you have to hide behind the box when it does the flame attack, right?
Yeah, the venting flames. The only thing to see here is that, for one, the tank needs to be dispelled immediately when they get the debuff twice per cycle. It does not light the box on fire. I think it did on hard mode or something, but it does not light the box on fire in Mythic Plus. And also the vent flames is probably going to one-shot people on 17 and above keys. So just don't risk it. Just hide behind the box.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can actually cast through the box. Like, the corners are not that great, especially relative to his hitbox. So you can cast through the corners, but it's not always clear whether or not he's going to be in line of sight of you or not. And it's based on his position too. And sometimes you'll just randomly get one shot by the vent flames. So it's probably not worth doing.
Yeah, it's like you might need to do this in a certain level of key, but I don't know, the rest of the fight is really not threatening, right? So
yeah,
you just play it safe and you're gonna get through the dungeon just fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Cujo is Fenrir if Fenrir didn't have a bleed, and his leap works the exact same way too. You can actually use mobility cooldowns to be able to dodge the bleed or the jump damage. And he always leaps to the furthest target from his position at that point. So that's a really easy way of predicting where he's going to be going.
Then after that we have the gauntlet, right? The little fire gauntlet. Does that fire damage scales with key level, right?
It does scale, yeah. It killed me as a tank the other day.
It's a Taltazar. It's Taltazar too. The fire gauntlet.
Feels you level?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Wait, I'm gonna die to that at some point. Hold on.
So careful of that. There are some classes that can just like get all the way through the gauntlet really fast with like Racing Flag Skystep or Heroic Leap or weird stuff like that. Just jumping you all the way up to the top immediately. So, or Ripple in Space. You know, this is a Ripple in Space dungeon if you want to do that and speed yourself up by 10 seconds.
Warlock Gate up there?
Warlock Gate, true.
Can you? I don't even know.
There's probably a spot.
I think there is,
can
yeah.
guarantee it.
If there's a
potions
spot,
are great though.
Yeah, light footing through, deaths advancing through, bunch of good stuff to get through that area. Then we get Mechagon Tinkerers and Guards. These are enemies that we fight for the rest of the dungeon, right? For all the remaining pulls in the dungeon,
Right.
Or many of the remaining pulls in the dungeon, and they do a bunch of damage to your tank, right? That's
They have a lot of group damage too. I think the more dangerous things are the squirrels they summon, the anti-personnel squirrels that
run away from
cast
those. Yeah,
a short explosion cast where they blow up and will kill you if you're not in the shield generator. But you can stop that cast with stuns. In fact, I'd probably let the first one go off because the shield is going to be up at that point, and then the second one they do, the squirrels do, is going to be when the shield goes down sometimes. So you want to stun that one for sure.
Yeah, Giga Wallop, very important kick for the Tinkerers. Each Tinkerer needs a 15-second interrupt on them to kick Giga Wallop. And then, yeah, we're talking about those shields. Shields are good. You do not want to kill those, right? You want to stand in those to not die.
Don't kill the shield generators.
Yeah.
Right. You can accidentally target them and kill them. Be very careful about that. Also, they stack. Like if there's 2 shield guys in a pull, I think there is in the last area of the dungeon. If you're in both shields, you get like a 99% DR because they stack.
They're like 75% apiece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, and they stack up to that's insane.
Yeah,
Okay,
really good.
we do get defense bots. After that, there are 3 different types of defense bot, right? Mark 1, Mark 2, and Mark 3. Mark 2 doesn't really do anything. Mark 1
Is there
does.
even a Mark 2? Where is that?
There is in that poll, right?
I think there's just 2 Mark 1s and 1 Mark 3.
Oh, okay, 2 Mark 1s and a Mark 3. All right.
Yeah.
Mark 1s are dangerous for arcing zap. Mark 3s are dangerous because of short out. So arcing zap is a dot that they put on people. The Mark 1s put on people, a magic damage dot. It is dispellable, but if there's 2 at once, then obviously you're going to run into the chemical burn, lack of dispels issue. Mark 3s do short out, which is big AoE damage to the group. That is a lot of damage, right? And you're not going to have a shield generator always when fighting them. Not like the first time you fight defense bots, there are no shield generator mobs at the same time. So watch out for that. The Mark 3s also cast arcing zap, right? So you need to be you're going to have 3 of the dots out for a while, and then you dispel 1, so you're still going to have to heal 2 people. So just make sure that like whoever has cloak or whatever or AMS uses it against that.
If
I think
somebody
it's-
gets 2 on them, you dispel them instantly.
Yeah.
I think the arcing zap does instant damage too, right?
I think up
Like
front, yeah.
Very little. It's not a ton. It is, but it does do some. Yes.
Oh, okay. My healer got 1 shot yesterday, pulling that pack 2 seconds in from 2 arcing zaps hitting him.
Wait, does it in a 15? I get hit by 2, and it did like 60% of my health.
Dude, maybe the
That's
upfront.
insane.
This was a 17 fortified. So yeah, 2 arcing zaps instantly, like 1 shot our Holy Paladin healer. So I think like these need to be tuned down for 1. And 2, you should probably focus one of the Mark 1 bots just to get 1 out of the way.
All right, we have a question in chat that I think is pretty good to talk about when we're talking about the generators from Snowflan. I'm not completely sure on this. Let's say I blade dance trash next to the generator. Am I going to hit it, or do I have to actually target the thing? You have to target the generator to kill it. No other thing will kill it, except for maybe things that kill explosives. If there's randomly stuff that kills explosives, that might accidentally kill the generator. So it might be the same rule set as explosive, basically.
Careful.
They're
using-
like totems, I think, right?
Yeah, so careful of like the Aquapotent Nautilus.
Yeah.
Or I've heard that the Cultiran Cannonball Runner can hit the explosives too. I haven't tested that
very
myself.
nice.
But,
Don't use that trinket.
you know, that was what I was flaming Cultiran Cannonball Runner yesterday, and somebody was like, "It's explosive." So then I had to be like, "Oh, all right, well maybe that's good then." So careful of killing those things, but mostly you have to click on them to kill them. Right. After we kill those defense bots, the next thing that spawns is Blastatron X80. This enemy has a weird like three quarters of the room gets silenced and 1/4 of the room does not, and the graphic is very tough to see. Right, it's like a very very light blue area that indicates where it's going to get hit, and then there's a clear area that is safe, and you have like 2 seconds to move to the clear area. That's all there is to that one. So, dodge it.
Yeah, I didn't even know that there was a graphic until Mythic Plus. I thought I just got silenced for 8 seconds, no matter what. Mm-hmm. It's hard to see.
And I think you might be able to Z-axis as well.
It's not Z-axis. You can range it though.
You can range it. Okay.
If you walk down the stairs right before the point where you would be line of sight of the bot is about where I stand, and you can range it there.
This thing can be moved as well, right? So the tank can maybe move it to the far edge of the area, and then you don't have to deal with elevation to range it, maybe?
Maybe.
Okay. So that's Blastron X80. Maybe it can't be moved, actually, but I think it can be moved.
It can be moved, yeah.
Okay.
Walk around.
After that, we have the Gauntlet Area, but the Gauntlet Area can be Awakened portaled through, right? So you don't actually have to deal with the whole sneaky Gauntlet, which is nice, because could you imagine the MDI being decided by just like which team actually gets through that thing without getting hit by one of the stealth-seeing bots?
Well, can we get Rich Campbell back on the desk so he can laugh at them, similar to how he laughed at people with the black or cold rocks?
Yeah, or when what was it when the balls killed Method NA from the Spark Channeler in Temple? You remember when like it got pseudo distracted? Yes. Yeah,
I do remember that. That was like you just sat there, you watched it, you're just like, huh, that's unlucky.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Beyond that, though, there's really not too much going on with the rest of the trash pulls. They're all the same trash that we already mentioned, so just I guess there's those 2 weird mobs after Machinist's Garden, right? The robots that do the silencing pulse. Just make sure you don't get hit by that silencing pulse thing.
Yeah, you want to pull those together. I didn't mention those in the show notes just because they're not too dangerous. You just sidestep the funnel and dodge the rockets. That's it.
Oh, Machinist's Garden is pretty spooky, though. Basically, everything will drop you incredibly low if you hit by any incidental damage. But this is like a very well-designed fight because everything so is much unavoidable.
Yeah,
I love this fight.
This might be my favorite fight of BFA, actually. BFA Dungeons. My favorite part about this fight is, okay, if you have done this on M0, you might not have run into this, but the flame cannons, the hidden flame cannons, or sorry, the plant turrets. First of all, those are stunnable, but second of all, those do a lot of damage and they need to be killed. When they get killed, then their body like starts to spawn oil, and then the next time that gets hit by a hidden flame cannon, it turns into like a volcano. That launches more projectiles in the area. So the longer the fight goes on, the more of these volcanoes are going to be out, and it just gets more and more hectic. But it's all fully dodgeable. I would try to recommend not being a caster that has to have like a 4-second cast time or anything on this fight, because you do have to do quite a lot of dodging. But if you're a melee, this fight is just a beautiful dance. So
I'm channeling Font. F you.
Yeah, Tettles is bark skinning and channeling Font and taking 3 stacks of hidden flame cannon. So be ready, healers. Prepare your iron barks or your blessing of sacrifice or life cocoons for old TTB Tettles. He needs it badly.
I think everyone in the group should probably emphasize hidden flame cannon. If you get the dot at all on 15, you're probably gonna die. Let's be honest.
It is nasty. And being a caster, this fight is not going to be that fun if you're a caster. That's going to be much more. Although Tettle said he liked it, and he's a caster, so I don't know.
I like the fight. I think the fight is good. I mean, in terms of like dealing damage, it's almost whatever. The room doesn't get to a point where you're just like, holy shit, I have to move 100% of the time. This is a shame. But I mean, it's not that great, I guess. Yeah,
just casters and windwalkers are going to have to be aware before they, plant themselves for their caster rotation.
Whirling Dragon Punch.
Yeah, Whirling Dragon Punch is going to murder windwalkers 100% in here. You're going to Whirling Dragon Punch, and you're just going to land in like a fire and a saw. There's no counterplay. Okay. After this boss fight, which again on High Tyrannical there's going to be like 7 volcanoes or whatever at the end, and that's going to be a real hectic bit. We get to King Mechagon. There's a bunch of trash before King Mechagon, of which there's an obelisk near there, so you can choose what to fight from that.
Okay.
In your route, right?
So, in general, pulling everything inside of Mechagon except for the 5-pack in front of King Mechagon, is well advised. Don't pull the 5-pack in front of King Mechagon. Pull everything else in the whole entire instant.
Yeah. King Mechagon kind of double scales Tyrannical because there's the 2 boss enemies, right?
3. Even
3.
the actual gnome at the end has over 1 million health.
Okay, that's still not bad. But yeah,
3.
It's a long fight just due to the high base combined health that they all 3 of them have. Phase 1, Gigazap is not too lethal, right? This is the Gigazap that does not project onto the ground. So just make sure that people aren't getting cleaved with this. Make sure whoever has it does not aim it on top of anybody else, and you're going to be fine in phase 1. And then beyond that, it's a free phase, right?
I
Correct.
don't think his takeoff like zap thing scales dungeon. Like I don't think it scales.
Maybe you're just eluding his targeting systems.
If you do elude his targeting systems correctly, it doesn't do very much damage currently. But if you stand near the beam in melee, it pretty much one-shots you. I don't know if that's intended or not. It actually seems intended to me.
That seems intended. Honestly, I like that. I like how that works.
Yeah. Then in phase 2, the targeting systems suddenly become much harder to elude. Gigazap becomes massive damage. But in phase 2, it's AoE still, so it's feintable, it is vanishable, it's cloakable. So all sorts of classes have different buttons that they can press against this. You know, if you bring a class that has feint, or a class that has cloak, or a class that has vanish, any of those classes can work against against Gigazap. So
any of those classes.
What if you get 100-0 by the Gigazap? Then what?
Yeah. So if you for some reason select one of the 11 classes that doesn't have those buttons, that's not true. There are a bunch of classes that have, like, you know, feign death, or Netherwalk, or meta immunity, even all work against this thing. So
Bear form.
Yeah, there are options in other classes, but if you've selected, say, you know, a healing priest, for instance, then you're going to be in danger. You're going to be in serious jeopardy of just getting one shot by Gigazap right now.
Hold on, I think Power Word Shield may be sick, but
maybe
just like have your legendary cloak from Legion in your bags. Just like look at it longingly as you die and be like, man, I could be alive right now.
Bring out the Titan guards. We're going in.
Yeah.
The short story of this boss is that Gigazap in phase 2 is very overtuned. It's actually one-shotting people on 17 with heroic eye level for the new race. It needs to be nerfed, but in the meantime, have a plan to survive it somehow.
Yeah, Night Elf priests are great for this, of course, but every other race priest, big problem. But Shadow Meld, Shadow Meld OP. Goblin priest is the race that everybody plays it on in Horde, right? Because that's the only way that you can get a movement ability on that class.
Yeah.
Magneto Arm. I don't know if this is Magneto Arm. Magneto Arm is...
Magneto sounds cooler.
One thing about it is that it will be thrown at the farthest person, right, from the boss. And then as it sucks people in, it does bigger damage to the people that are closer to it, right? So you want to bait this thing far away from the group, and then make sure that, like, don't just be lazy and get sucked into it. Like, you may have been used from Restless Cabal of, like, not caring how much the Void Relic sucked you in on Restless Cabal. That is not how this thing works on King Mechagon. On King Mechagon, you care about staying far away from the magnet. Or else you're gonna die.
Yeah, you will actually just get one shot if you get close to it.
Mm-hmm. And then if you want to give people a heart attack, just say like hard mode 4 or whatever, and pretend that you're calling out hard mode callouts in Mythic Plus. For the first couple of weeks, that might correctly give people a nice little heart attack, like calling out quaking or whatever when it's not quaking week.
Also claim world first in PTR keys. That's also
yes, that's a big piece of advice we have for you on the Titanforge podcast. Is if there's any remotely reasonable way or unreasonable way to put world first in your YouTube video title, just do it. You know, go for it, and you'll get more clicks. That's the Tunnel's approved strategy.
Dude, yeah, whatever.
Trell
he did it as a joke. Yeah. We've been memeing him.
Trell just went with new affix on his title in caps, but Tunnel's went with world first. So, you know, you gotta respect the hustle at least.
Speaking of our YouTubes, both Tunnels and I uploaded runs from our Mechagon runs where we did teaming Tyrannical on both 15s, and we timed them. So if you want to learn strategies or just general good pulls, some of those are probably good to know about if you want to watch our video.
Yeah, watching this, like, it's going to be like in a couple months, those are going to be useless videos to watch, right? Because it's going to be like watching the first Ataldazars or whatever, when people just like ran down the middle and pulled the middle pack, and we're like, oh, this is fun. But for learning right now, it's a really good tool. It's not like you're saying this is the route or anything, right? It's just that like,
right.
This is
that's us experimenting,
learning the things. So yeah,
it's a good learning tool.
YouTube, just search Tettles or Trell, like the same names that you see below their faces on YouTube, and you'll find their YouTube channels. And that's where you can find these runs. You doing okay there, Tettles?
Great, thanks.
What is going on with that tail? It's like all fluffier at the back.
He got a haircut like he's a lion.
Is that a tiny lion?
Vicious.
That's a cute kitty.
Bert.
Meow.
Oh,
He's not feeling that.
all right. That is the end of our main topic, though, for this week. That's our Operation Mechagon rundown. I hope we have helped prepare you a little bit for this. Of course, we can't fully prepare you. There's going to be some amount of just like, you're just going to need to bang your head against this dungeon a little bit before you know what's going on. It's going to feel bad compared to all the other dungeons for a while, just because every other dungeon we've been doing for like a year and a half. Every other dungeon we have so much experience with, but this one you'll have no experience with, so it's going to feel hard compared to the others until that's no longer true. Let's move on to our Q&A. Our first Q&A question comes from Rylera on Discord, who asks, do you think it will be worth bringing an Awakened portal back to the start of a dungeon, like in Shrine, so that a wipe is potentially recoverable? I believe that this is not going to be a winning strategy. No, it's like you're going to you'd have to spend like 2 minutes of your life setting up this portal to potentially then save you some minutes later, but that's not the way to, that's not playing to win the dungeon. So I don't think that'll be a strat.
I only see that being the case if it's like a really, really high key in the first few weeks and you're just doing it for residuum and you're like, we're for sure going to wipe. So then you want to set up a portal.
Yeah, if you're
weekly no lever.
If you're doing a weekly no lever, then maybe this is a 5-head strat, but if you're not, if you're actually trying to time a keystone, no, this is a coward play.
What is really nice about it though is that you don't even have to do that most times. Like a lot of these obelisks are well placed by Blizzard this season, which I really like. They're right before like a common really long death skip like Motherload.
They put the obelisks in the same spot as the Void Touched emissaries, and so it turns out that that's a really good spot to not have to fight things. Very, very good design, actually. I like almost all of the obelisk positions. Ryaub from Discord asks, which dungeons from past expansions would you like to see as Mythic Plus if Blizzard made it possible? Tettles, you're up first.
Honestly, I am the least equipped to be able to answer this one. I defer to Dratnus.
Trell, you're up first.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, I don't know any of the past dungeons either anymore.
Give me like Iron Docks.
I hear that a lot. Iron Docks.
Wailing Caverns. You know, that could be fun. Mythic Plus Wailing Caverns. Ivajar back. I'd love that. Yeah.
Would accept that one too?
Yeah, Black Morass was my favorite meme suggestion. You know that one? Just
wait, isn't that the one with the Crocs?
Yeah.
Is it a swamp?
It's in the swamp where the enemies are on a timer and it's like Violet Hold, but
Dude, that dungeon all those dungeons would be so fucking bad.
Yeah. Oh, Blackrock, dude, could you imagine Blackrock Depths? Like upper Blackrock Depths, medium Blackrock Depths, lower Blackrock Depths, and like 7 more Blackrock Depths M pluses if they actually split it into reasonably sized dungeons.
I didn't know I wanted to play Classic of this much.
Mm-hmm. All 9 dungeons from Mists of Pandaria from Gapezilla is the suggestion. I think that would be pretty popular, yeah. I mean, they were challenge mode. They were designed for challenge modes as well, so they would work pretty well into M+. I
don't
think
know if they would scale like damage-wise that well, but
yeah, they would need some maybe numbers work. But
well, currently every BFA dungeon needs numbers work. Honestly,
that's true, right? Like, I mean, who's scaling well? Who is Blizzard to care about that sort of? That's a minor concern for a dungeon. Oh yeah, Scholomance. I like that. I like Scholomance and Stratham. Actually, I think those would be cool. Those are mop dungeons though, right? I guess they'd be spooky, but fun.
Yeah.
Shadowfang Keep. Scarlet Monastery. Dude, you just go into Scarlet Monastery and you put in your like. I guess there are different portals, so you wouldn't need a different keystone for the same place. I don't know. I'd like to see them go back and add M plus from old dungeons, maybe. I don't know. Like,
we can do a bolstering Zulfa Rock and just like all the thousands of trolls that spawn, just bolster the heck out of everything.
Yeah, the gong run. Like, I know that Mythic Plus is a lot of work for them, so I understand them focusing on what they've got right now. But it would be cool, like, if at least once at the end of the expansion, like, you know how they're not adding a dungeon here in Ny'alotha. Like, it would be cool if they just went back and were like, okay, you know, we'll give you Skullman's M plus or whatever.
I don't know. Do you feel like Mechagon's not? I feel like turning Mechagon into a Mythic Plus dungeon has required a lot of work.
Yeah, but if you look at like what they've done over the course of all of BFA, we've gotten 1 new dungeon with 2 new M plus dungeons associated with it. Whereas looking back at Legion, right, we got 3 new dungeons with 4 new M plus dungeons, right?
Sure, yeah.
So over the same period of time, right? So, I don't know if they want to develop fewer dungeons, which they're continuing. Like next expansion, we're getting fewer dungeons to start with. A cool way to at least keep some new content would require a lot less design work. Would be to just go back and M plusify an old popular dungeon in a patch. That would be a cool. That's my idea, at least for them to get the best of both worlds. Pags in Discord asks, how would you go about positioning the first boss of Upper Mechagon? I think we covered this one, right? But basically the main thing is don't trigger that achievement and make sure the thing is ramming into the wall. And then...
Yeah, I would say as a tank player, I think that's mostly on the tank to get the robots in the most efficient cleave pattern that you can. So you want to bait the No Mercy tank toward the closest hammer to the Pummeler boss, like right before the boss actually spawns. So you stand pretty much inside the tank's hitbox and just aim it toward the hammer. So you start on that far hammer by the Pummeler and then work your way clockwise around the room to the third hammer. And then right after the third hammer is usually right as the tank is going to do his maximum thrust second cast. And so I'll roll back or leap back to the boss and then aim it right toward the wall where he is, just to keep him from going to Narnia.
Yeah, and it's not too important to cleave at the start, right? Because the thing has a 90% damage reduction, but it's still good.
Right.
And then once the thing has like 1 stack only and only has a 30% damage reduction, cleaving onto it is actually very time-saving, yeah. So, would recommend doing that. All right, I think... Oh, somebody recommends keeping Legion M plus in the rotation for dungeons. Yeah, imagine just if like each season had a time-walking dungeon that you got keys for as well as all the others.
I don't think I like that.
Really? I like that.
I think that's too much.
Well, I wouldn't want like all the Legion dungeons always available, but like if just like season 3 there was also Black or Cold this season or something. I mean, one problem with it would be that they're just very differently designed. So like different comps are good and different effects are good. But I think it would be cool to like. I don't think you want to have like 30 different M plus dungeons in rotation ever, but if there was just like they kept cycling in like one guest spot, I think that would do a good job of not being an overload of content and still keeping having like interesting old things recycled back in.
I'm okay with them staying time walking.
Fair enough. Well, there's not time walking for them, right? There's no time walking M plus yet.
Yeah,
you're just okay with them being gone forever, right? Which is fine. Like them being gone forever. The problem with it being gone forever, though, is that there's not like the content release schedule is just so slow, right? We're getting 1 addition to M plus for the whole expansion of dungeons, right? So,
all right, but we got seasonal affixes, which it's more. I would almost argue that the seasonal affixes themselves should be more content than the Legion editions of dungeons.
Man, seasonal affixes close dungeons, dude. That seasonal affixes is like
just because they're dog shit doesn't mean that they shouldn't be something better.
Man.
Okay, I'm sorry. They're implemented poorly, but
chat has alerted me that you look like a B tier supervillain with your cat like that. I agree.
Yeah. All right. Wow. There's been some heater gamer tensions rising up here in the past couple minutes. I think
there's tension. I think there's just disagreement.
Tettles is just so mad. He's frothing at the lips and he's just steaming and fuming right now.
Have you heard my Dratnos impression yet, Trell?
Oh no.
Oh, please.
Ready for this? Hello, everybody. My name is Dratnos, and I come here today to bring you my top 5 tier list of my top 5 tier lists. And today we have the Enhancement Shaman.
Some of that sounded pretty good.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't smile it off.
Yeah, man. Come on. Give me the.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dratnos.
Dratnos, can we get a frown?
No, man. Give me the smile with dead eyes that looks like a serial killer. That's what I get in my comments. Oh no, that's gonna give me nightmares, Tuttles. All right. Anyways, let's end our episode now, and honestly, let me go back into the episode and cut out the last 5 minutes before I post it to YouTube and stuff.
To say.
No, man. We'll be back though next week for our Awakened episode, so stay tuned for that. And of course, if you enjoyed the episode, write us an iTunes review, let your friends know about the show, make your guildies watch the show, make your Mythic Plus group watch the show, support us on Patreon if you would like.
Somebody who applied to Might the other day had an interview, and they said that they watch the show every week.
Oh, dude. Okay, if you apply to Poetry Club, do not tell them you watch the show or watch my stream, though. The other officers in my guild will immediately discount your application if it includes anything about my stream or this podcast. So do not mention that if you want to get into my guild. All right, that is going to be all for us this week, though. We will be back next week for more Titanforge. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Later.